And I just want us to talk about this situation about the graft war. Yesterday we saw the former Prime Minister speaking at a public lecture at the University of Nairobi, and he gave quite a speech talking about how we treat suspects of graft as angels, that they go to court, they get bail, then they come back and they are celebrated, they start intimidating officials who are working under them, and then we start to lose steam in the war against graft. Yesterday also I spoke to the Law Society of Kenya president, that is Alan Gichuhi, and he was of the view that in all this there is the presumption of innocence that every accused person enjoys, and they have the leeway to go and seek justice if they feel that the accusations at the magistrate's court are unprocedural or against their human rights, then they can contest this at the High Court. I'm just wondering, we now see the former Prime Minister accusing the judiciary of such kind of things. We have seen the President saying that the weakest link in this fight is the judiciary. We've seen the DPP Nordin Haji saying, actually saying that he's going to write to the Chief Justice to complain about how cases are being treated at the judiciary. So until what time do we have this conversation, and how soon can we resolve this and have matters graft treated seriously?
Well, I think the main problem is in our society. As long as we are still worshipping those who have stolen public resources, we are not likely to solve the problem. And this stems from our own institutional setup, where resources of state are seen to be alienated from the community. Today, if you stole and you took back to your village, you will be a hero, because society has not been sufficiently informed on the fact that anybody stealing from the national coffers is stealing from us. Right. There is a total disconnect. That's why some of the corruption cases or accused persons ended up in very good positions. Some are governors, despite the fact that they were named in high-profile corruption, and some are still enjoying in certain offices. And even when somebody is named to be corrupt, people seem to gravitate towards him or her because they want to partake in the gravy train of corruption. Now that is where the problem is. And I would have expected in the school curriculum two things to be done in terms of content. One is to allow Kenyans to realize that they are people of one nation, so that we demystify this word called a tribe. Because you and I really, and I really don't care from which tribe somebody comes from. It is the content of the person that should be worrying me. But you see, in Kenya today, tribe is such an important factor, and we have allowed it. And even the stereotype that we carried from the Muzungu, we're still carrying them on, that this tribe is like this community is like this community is like that, until we are able to slay the aspect of tribe. We're likely to have corruption with us. Secondly is the question of institutions. Do we prepare them with the requisite resources? Even the prosecutor, and I'm sure he knows that he may not have the capacity to have evidence that is going to convict the individuals that have been named in corruption. And the danger is that, why name me when you don't have enough evidence to convict me in terms of issues of corruption? Because you are messing people's names. At the end of the day, it will be seen that corruption was just playing to the gallery. And I would want to see a few convictions and a few cases being taken to court, and those that are taken to court succeed.
So how do we ensure that, as a matter of fact, once you are linked with corruption, you you step aside from whatever you're doing, so that at least we give it the seriousness that it deserves, so that people know that there are things you don't attempt in this country?
And Sam, that should be the norm, if you ask me. You know, if you are, mentioned in matters corruption, I think, you step aside and you're investigated. But like Maheshimua has said, I think, yes, from where Wanjiku sits, what Wanjiku is concerned about is how many cases and convictions will somebody like the DPP have. Everything else to Wanjiku is just a legal process. But really what the Mwananchi is concerned about is how many people spend serious jail terms, because notwithstanding what your friend from Law Society of Kenya said, that the presumption of the innocent until proven guilty stands, there are certain things that from where I'm seated, I can see, you know, that is not fair. Just the other day, and I'm, you know, giving you this example, and it's a live one. In fact, I'm just reporting a fact. You saw chairman of the National Lands Commission, Swazuri, when he was given bail. And that bail really, Mheshimiwa had no conditions. He was allowed to go back to office. What did you think was going to be his first order of business? Mess up.
The offices were broken into.
The computers went missing. And you know, that's not something to understand.
Though we can't authoritatively say that he is guilty.
But what did you expect to see? Sam, let me tell you, if that was me, that's what I would have done. That would have been my first order of business. Is to ensure. No, seriously. No, you know, we have to be honest.
You have to think like a criminal.
Exactly. Mheshimiwa, that would have been my first order of business, to ensure that I corrupt evidence as much as possible. I'm fighting for my freedom, for crying out loud. You see, so even if you're going to give it, and you saw the president, he had a very hard time with somebody who's, you know, and this is not what I'm talking about, but I'm giving you another picture in general where he says, you know, somebody has stolen billions worth of shillings, and you really give them, you know, a bail, I mean, for 2 million. You know, that's a slap on the wrist. And really, if the judiciary is going to be seen as among the key stakeholders in this country, they must then join, really, and I'm talking about seriously, joining in the war against corruption. Tell you what, look at the Chicken Gate scandal. This is another very good example. In the UK, people today are serving terms. Here, we've not even scratched the surface. Go to the Akashas. They were gallivanting across town like they owned half of the country. Today in New York, those people, I don't think, you know, they'll ever see the light of day. That's what I'm talking. You know, those are jurisdictions which are so keen on fighting vices. And by the way, our judiciary should not be an exemption.
So Mheshimiwa Martha, you are in Parliament, and the judiciary and the lawyers will argue that whatever is happening is within the law. And if you try to pay a keen eye, you might get convinced. Is it a possibility to legislate about some of these issues to ensure that, for instance, if you're a governor, you've been implicated in certain charges of a certain level that contravene Chapter 6, whether you're guilty or innocent, is it a possibility to legislate to have such kind of suspects blocked from running state affairs, bearing in mind that a principal secretary in the name of Lilian Omolo was implicated in the NYS situation? She's now serving, she's now on suspension as the case continues. A state officer in the name of National Land Commission Chairperson Mohammed Suzuri is back in office.
I would say, you know, Sam, and I always say that because I totally believe it, that in this country, our problem is not even the law.
No, I agree.
It is never the law, because even the Constitution itself spells it out. If you read Chapter 6 properly, and anyone, even a layman, you will see that it has been structured in a way that if you have been charged for murder, it doesn't even need anyone, another person to actually tell you to step aside. The Chapter 6 is there, but someone would go to court to oppose it. And more importantly, when people run for office, and I'll talk for political offices, you have to be cleared by all these institutions. The EACC, you have to get a clearance. You have to get a clearance for your help. You have to get a clearance from the DC, whatever, to get a good conduct. If these institutions do their work properly, we would actually get these people out of our system naturally. That the DCI will not clear me for a good conduct if I have been charged and seen to be culpable for murder. But in this country, we just, I mean, you are charged for murder and you go and do a homecoming party. Really, in your backyard, you do a celebration and people actually saying, keep off our person. That if you're a thief, wewe ni mwizi wetu. I think it's not a problem of the law. So it is just the implementation. And, you know, we must have to get people who are radical enough to actually decide that this time, Sam, you won't run for office, you won't be appointed for this. And I think that's where the public, the people who litigate on, like the umtatas of this world, will get away with it, because they'll go to court and block you, and it's a case. But I think in terms of the judiciary, I know we have talked about the autonomy and being let to do their work. But the commitment, I have heard Maraga himself commit that we will treat economic crimes seriously. And that has to be demonstrated. But it also must start from the DPP. The case you bring, and I'll give you an example. Recently, I think a week ago, we had so many people who had been arrested, or rather been charged for NYS scandal, being let go. You know, just like that. And you're like, why were they even charged the first time if there was no evidence? Getting the watertight cases will be very critical. And that's why the president also keeps saying everyone must play their role. The EACC, we now have a new boss. We even sought divine intervention and put my archbishop there. You know, really, because it's a problem. EACC, we must not just play to the gallery. And that is the danger of this fight. That we want to just be seen, we have raided your house as EACC and you're coming after everything has been done, or you have been given bail and coincidentally an office is broken into. So we must get the judiciary to play their part. But the DPP must give the judiciary the meat also to be able to convict and to be able to do their work, because they don't do the investigations. They look at the evidence that originate from the prosecutor's office.
And at that point, the Kenyan is still lost, because we are saying we don't need any extra legislation. We don't need new laws.
But you must also agree, Sam, that we have also made great strides in the matters corruption. It may not have been so much, but I can tell you where we were 3 years ago is not where we are today. I think even the president, I mean, who is the other president who has ever fired a third of his cabinet? In terms of, he did that in his first term, and it's quite something.
But ultimately, the joy of a Kenyan will be to see people convicted and
money
property
returned.
recovered and go to
and I'll
serve the
tell you,
purpose it's
Sam,
supposed to.
if the investigators get serious with their job, I mean, there's no way you'll have billions moving and there's no trail. Even the ones who hide it in safe havens in outside the country, it is actually traceable. So if we do have people who are committed to this country and can actually follow the trail and nail one or two, and get the money back, because we have billions of dollars stashed out outside the country. The agreements we signed with New Jersey, the agreements with Jersey City, the agreements we signed with the Swiss, we must see the results. The money is coming back, and what is it coming to do? And the asset recovery, what have they recovered? Because it's not just about charging, but also freezing and recovering what has been stolen.